So it's back. It's another math episode from Mr. Mac.
All right. Today we'll be working on task number 1, questions 10 through 12. The question we're going to be looking at first is question number 10. We're going to write the two expressions that could be used to find the area below. So on the other side of the screen, here are the two forms you can short the area. We can either use the expanded form or the factored form. So if you notice, over here we have the number 30. That number 30 represents the length that is right here on this rectangular figure, and it's also the length that is right here because it's the opposite side of a rectangle. Okay, so we have two forms, the expanded form and the factored form, as we said earlier. If we want to find the expanded form, we will take this 30 and this 50 and multiply them together. That's how you find the area of this first figure right here. Length times width, 30 times 50. But that's not all that's inside the figure. We also have another figure which is over here. So we also need to find the area of that figure, length times width, which is 30 times 20. Alright, 115. 600 to get an answer of 2,100 meters squared. Anytime you find area, it is always squared. So now let's take a look at question number 10. We're going to find it in expanded form. I'm going to write an E just so you know it's an expanded form. Alright, there goes my E. And to go about going expanded form, we take that 6 and the Y and we find the area of the first shape. So we end up with 6 times Y, right? And as I said, 6 also represents the length of the opposite shape, which is in shape 2. And I'm going to put that 2 and make it red. And that's going to be plus 6 times 5, because that's the area of the second figure. Alright, when we multiply 6 times y, since they're not like terms, we can express our answer as 6y plus the response to 6 times 5. What's 6 times 5? 30. After the 30, just be sure to make sure you indicate that you'll be dealing with units squared, since they did not tell us what type of unit it was. Okay? Now that was the expanded form. What we want to look at now is the factored form. So we're going to go to the opposite side of the screen and see over here is our factored form. If you look closely, our length is represented by the number 30 meters, and part of our width is 50 meters. That's not the whole entire width. We have to add on the extra 20. So in your factored form, outside of your parentheses, you'll put your length, which is 30. And since over here is also represented by 30, we do not have to write 30 again. Inside our parentheses, we can put the sum of our width, which is 50 meters plus 20 meters to get a sum of 70 meters. And 30 times 70 will give us 2,100 meters squared. So we're going to do the same thing for question 10. 6 is our length, as you can see over here, and inside of that we have our width, which can be represented by y. Remember, it's the sum of the width, so it's y plus 5, y plus 5. Next we have to distribute. 6 times y gives us a product of 6y. 6 times 5 gives us a product of 30. And as I told you before, you need to make sure your answer is represented in units squared. And that is it for question 10. In question 11, we want to find the additive inverse. In case you're not sure what the additive inverse is, let's go to the opposite side. And it says over here, the additive inverse is the value that must be added to a given number to get a result of 0. Also known as we need to find the opposite term. Okay, so when you think about finding the opposite term, in question number 1 we have negative 5, its opposite term, which is on the opposite end of 0, which is also 5 units away from 0, is positive 5. Negative 5 plus 5 gives us 0. Positive 6 plus its opposite term, which is negative 6, gives us 0. A plus negative a would give us 0. So the opposite, or the additive inverse of 7x would be negative 7 x. Now for question 12, it's asking, what is the multiplicative inverse of negative 2/3? If we go to the opposite side of our screen, the multiplicative inverse is a value that must be multiplied by a given number to get the result of 1. So in the example, they show us 2 times 1/2 equals 1. So the multiplicative inverse of the number 2 would be 1/2. Alright, if you're not sure what the multiplicative inverse is, just remember that term we told you about for the last test, which is the reciprocal. Alright, and the reciprocal is just when we flip the number integer of the fraction. So for number 1, 2/3 times its reciprocal, the reciprocal, 3/2 gives us 1. For question number 2, a times 1/a is equal to 1. If you're not sure, the letter a, or the variable a, written as a fraction is a/1. a/1 times its reciprocal 1/a is equivalent to a/a. So we have the same term in the numerator and the denominator. A divided by a gives us 1. -5 times -1/5 is equivalent to 1 also. Do you notice I kept the negative sign? When we find the reciprocal, we do not get rid of the negative sign if it's there. We simply just flip the numerator and the denominator. Alright, so that the denominator takes place of the numerator and the numerator takes place of the denominator. So when we want to find the multiplicative inverse of question number 12, it will just be -3/2. And that is it.